How Earth went from galactic newcomer to the most feared military force in known space. Computer, begin recording. Security clearance, Crimson Nebula. For cadet training purposes only. The lights in the Viridian Prime Military Archives dimmed as Admiral Graz'nik settled his 4 appendages into the recording station. His scaled skin reflected the soft blue glow of the holographic displays surrounding him, and he cleared all 3 of his throat sacs with a gurgling sound that the translation software politely ignored. Attention, new cadets of the Galactic Defense Academy. I am Admiral Graz'nik, 7th Fleet Commander and survivor of what we now refer to as the Terra Incident. This briefing contains information that will save your lives, your ships, and possibly your entire species. Pay attention. Graz'nik paused to take a sip from his nutrient pouch, his facial ridges contorting into what passed for a smirk among the Viridians. So, humans. Those bipedal nightmares from the backwater spiral arm that nobody cared about. The species that went from discovering radio waves to dominating our military doctrine in less than 3 centuries. The greatest miscalculation in the 12,000-year history of the Galactic Confederation. He pulled up a holographic image of Earth, spinning it with one tentacle. Look at this insignificant blue dot. Doesn't look like much, does it? That was our first mistake. Our xenobiologists classified them as mostly harmless and suggested they might make adequate service personnel on our luxury cruisers. Ha! Graz'nik's laughter came out as a series of hisses and clicks. We, the combined might of 27 spacefaring civilizations, with technology millennia beyond theirs, that collectively wet our various alien pants when they showed us what they could do. And do you know what's truly terrifying? They found our fear funny. The Admiral's upper eye membrane twitched involuntarily at the memory. You've all heard the rumors. Yes, a single human vessel once disabled an entire battle group without firing a shot. Yes, they did rename an asteroid belt after winning it in what they call a poker game with the Arcturian Emperor. And yes, the phrase "hold my beer" is now officially classified as a threat-level Omega warning across all Confederation monitoring channels. Graz'nik leaned closer to the recorder, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. This briefing will explain how a species that can barely survive in space without elaborate life support, that lived on a single planet for most of its existence, that still finds flatulence amusing somehow became the most feared military force in known space. And why we should be grateful they prefer trading memes and what they call pizza to conquering us all. Graz'nik pulled up another holographic display, this one showing a pompous-looking alien with elaborate head crests and ceremonial robes dripping with precious metals. This, cadets, is former Ambassador Lurtz. I say former because after the Earth debacle, he was reassigned to atmospheric waste management on Rigel 9. A fitting end for the architect of our most embarrassing diplomatic catastrophe. The Admiral flicked through several images of Earth's cities, technology, and military installations circa 2089. The Confederation Council, in its infinite wisdom, decided that first contact with humanity should demonstrate our overwhelming technological superiority. Their reasoning? Humans were biologically inefficient. They required constant food intake. Couldn't survive temperature variations of more than a few dozen degrees, needed a specific atmospheric composition, and spent a third of their lives unconscious. Practically primitive. Graz'nik snorted, a sound like a clogged vacuum cleaner. Ambassador Lurtz led a delegation of our most advanced warships to Earth orbit. The plan was simple: appear suddenly, demonstrate technological superiority, and graciously invite humans to join the Confederation as a protectorate species. Level 7 status. For those keeping track. That's just above sentient fungus. The display shifted to show a massive Confederation flagship hovering over New York City. Lurtz broadcast his message on all frequencies. He explained how privileged humans should feel to be acknowledged by the mighty Confederation. He outlined the terms of their membership, and gave them 48 hours to dismantle their military as a show of good faith. Graz'nik's facial tentacles curled in what might have been a grimace. When their deadline approached without response, Lurtz decided a small demonstration was in order. He targeted an uninhabited island in the Pacific Ocean for disintegration. Just a tiny show of force to help the humans understand their position. The Admiral leaned back, his eyes glinting with dark amusement. What Lurtz didn't know was that humans had detected our scout ships months earlier. While he was making grandiose speeches, they were reverse engineering our communication systems. And that uninhabited island? It housed a secret testing facility where humans had been working on something they called Project Boomerang. Graz'nik paused dramatically. When Lurtz fired the disintegration beam, the humans activated their device. The beam bounced back. That's right, cadets. Bounced back. Our flagship disintegrated itself, along with 2 support cruisers. Ambassador Lurtz barely escaped in a pod, wearing nothing but what humans call heart-covered boxers because the reversal caught them during their sleep cycle. The Admiral's laughter sounded like stones in a garbage disposal. The humans later told us they hadn't even perfected the technology. It was a prototype with a 30% chance of working. They just got lucky. But that's the thing about humans, they make their own luck, then act like it was nothing special. Lurtz's mission was supposed to last 6 hours. Instead, it became the first page in humanity's guide on how to make the galaxy your playground. Graz'nik touched a control panel, and the holographic display shifted to show a star system with a small reddish sun. After the Lurtz fiasco, the Confederation decided to contain humanity to their solar system while we regrouped and reassessed. Perfectly reasonable, right? Let's just keep these unpredictable bipeds isolated until we figure out how to deal with them. He projected an image of a small, rocky planet with several dome structures visible on its surface. Then we discovered this, humanity's first extrasolar colony at Proxima Centauri b. Somehow, in the mere 8 years since our first contact, these supposedly primitive apes had developed faster than light travel and established a settlement right under our noses. The Admiral pulled up what appeared to be military footage. The High Command dispatched a blockade force 12 of our most advanced vessels to surround the system and prevent further human expansion. The mission commander expected humans to either retreat or attempt diplomatic negotiations. The display now showed a single ship approaching the blockade. It looked almost primitive by Confederation standards, all harsh angles and exposed heat radiators, more like a flying industrial facility than a proper spacecraft. This, cadets, is the U.S. Audacity. A fitting name, as you'll soon see. Commanded by Captain Tessa Blackwood, a human female who, according to our intelligence, previously delivered cargo shipments before joining their space force. The Audacity appeared to be a retrofitted transport vessel with minimal defensive capabilities. Graz'nik's voice took on a tone of begrudging respect. When ordered to turn back, Captain Blackwood responded, and I quote, "That's a negative, folks. We've got pineapple pizza and terrible reality shows to deliver to our colonists, and we'd hate for them to miss tonight's episode of Dancing with the Celebrities or whatever it's called." The Admiral shook his head. Our commander, following protocol, warned that they would open fire if the Audacity continued its approach. Captain Blackwood's response was simply to transmit an audio file of what we later identified as ancient human music called rock and roll, specifically, something about champions and dust being bitten. The footage now showed the Audacity accelerating toward the blockade. What happened next still confounds our military strategists. The Audacity released what appeared to be several hundred small maintenance drones, harmless things, really, until they attached themselves to our ship's sensor arrays and communication systems. Graz'nik tapped another control, showing the Confederation ships firing wildly into space. Within minutes, our entire blockade fleet lost external communications and targeting capabilities. Several vessels, operating on automated defense protocols, actually fired upon each other. Meanwhile, hundreds of tiny drones physically entered our ships through maintenance ports, and I still can't believe this manually disabled critical systems by removing key components. The Admiral's 3 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of disbelief among his species. The Audacity sailed through the disabled blockade without firing a single conventional weapon. Not one Confederation crew member died, though many reported psychological distress from the incessant human music being piped through their ship's communication systems. Graz'nik projected the after-action report. Our analysts dubbed this asymmetric warfare. The humans didn't try to match our firepower, they simply rendered it irrelevant. Captain Blackwood later transmitted that this was just a little trick we picked up from some folks back home who couldn't afford fancy tanks but still managed to give superpowers headaches for decades. The Admiral leaned forward, his voice dropping. And here's the truly terrifying part. We later discovered that the drones were controlled by a small team of engineers who treated the whole operation like some kind of competitive sport. They were keeping score among themselves for the most creative system disabling methods. The winner apparently managed to reprogram a waste disposal unit to periodically spray our crew with scented liquid. Let's fast forward 3 solar cycles, Graz'nik said, manipulating the holographic controls. The display showed a sprawling star map of the Perseus arm, glittering with thousands of stars and dozens of highlighted military installations. By this point, the Confederation had given up on containing humanity to their local stellar neighborhood. Instead, we adopted a strategy of controlled integration, offering them limited trading rights and diplomatic recognition. The Admiral's facial ridges flattened in what his species considered a cynical expression. Meanwhile, Ophishan, Spanier, the Exectholian hive mind not part of our Confederation, and considerably less patient, decided that humans represented an existential threat that needed to be eliminated immediately. The display zoomed in on a massive fleet of organic-looking ships, pulsing with bioluminescent energy. The hive mind assembled their largest battle fleet in 6 generations. 347 living vessels, each containing millions of drone warriors, programmed with a singular purpose: eradicate all human settlements in the Perseus arm. Graz'nik touched another control, bringing up the image of a stern-faced human with a distinctive scar running from temple to chin. This is General Dax Morvel, commander of the human defense forces in that sector. The Confederation expected the humans to request our intervention. Instead, Morvel sent a message thanking the Exectholians for the opportunity to field test some interesting tactical theories. The Admiral's throat sacs vibrated with reluctant admiration. What General Morvel did next was, well, it was both brilliant and utterly insane. The human defense fleet, just 14 vessels, mind you, retreated from the Perseus colonies, appearing to abandon them. The Exectholians, predictably, moved in for what they assumed would be an easy conquest. The holographic display showed the massive alien fleet converging on a cluster of human settlements. But Morvel had studied what humans call naval warfare, an archaic form of combat from when they fought each other on their water-covered planet. Specifically, something called the Battle of Salamis from thousands of years earlier, where a smaller force defeated a larger one by choosing the battlefield carefully. Graz'nik pressed another button, and the display showed several narrow space corridors between dense asteroid fields. The humans had spent months secretly moving asteroids, creating artificial navigation channels that appeared on scans as natural formations. When the hive mind fleet entered these channels, pursuing what they thought were fleeing civilian transports, the holographic simulation showed the human fleet suddenly appearing from hiding places within the asteroid fields, detonating precisely placed explosives that sent cascades of asteroid fragments tumbling into the narrow corridors. The Exectholians found themselves trapped in what became known as the Terran Trap. Unable to maneuver or escape, the entire hive mind battle fleet was captured intact. Not destroyed, cadets captured. Graz'nik's appendages gestured expressively. And this is where we first encountered the most terrifying human battle phrase in the galaxy. When Morvel's second-in-command expressed concern about the risk of their untested strategy, witnesses report the general shrugged, handed over his beverage container, and said, "Hold my beer. This is going to be awesome." The Admiral paused to let that sink in. Within our military, "hold my beer" is now recognized as an official tactical alert, warning that humans are about to attempt something catastrophically unpredictable. The Perseus panic, as we call it, established humanity as a military force that could not be countered with conventional thinking. The Xaechtholian hive mind, previously considered the most aggressive species in the sector, formally requested human protection within a standard year. Graz'nik adjusted his uniform, clearly uncomfortable. To this day, General Morvel insists the entire operation was based on a video game he played as a child. The Confederation's military academy now requires all tactical officers to study human entertainment as part of their training. Imagine that we're studying their games to avoid annihilation. Admiral Graz'nik's expression grew more somber as he manipulated the holographic controls. The display shifted to show a human female with dark hair pulled back in a practical style, intense eyes focused on something off camera. After the Perseus incident, the Confederation finally acknowledged we needed to understand humans better. This prompted the creation of the Xenobiological Threat Assessment Division, and our first major breakthrough came from studying this individual. The Admiral gestured at the image. Dr. Lana Patel. Officially, she was a civilian research scientist specializing in xenotechnology integration. Unofficially, she was the architect of humanity's most revolutionary military advances. Dr. Patel had an unsettling talent for examining alien technology and immediately identifying both its vulnerabilities and how it could be improved, often in ways its original designers never considered. Graz'nik pulled up schematics of various devices. Take the quantum disruption shield, a defensive technology the Malovian Empire spent 3 centuries perfecting. Dr. Patel examined a captured unit for approximately 6 hours, but then casually suggested 17 critical improvements while simultaneously developing a countermeasure that rendered it effectively useless. The Admiral's voice took on a note of disbelief. When asked how she accomplished this, Dr. Patel simply shrugged and said she'd had a thought in the shower that morning. A thought. In the shower. Graz'nik composed himself and continued. But Dr. Patel's technological innovations were merely symptoms of a more fundamental truth about humans, one our xenobiologists finally identified after studying their applied evolutionary history. The display showed primitive humans on the savanna of ancient Earth. Unlike most sentient species, which evolved as either evasion specialists or ambush predators, humans evolved as what they call persistence predators. Their early hunting technique wasn't based on overwhelming strength or speed, but on the terrifying ability to pursue prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. The Admiral's 3 eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of distress. Imagine cadets, a predator that simply refuses to stop. It doesn't need to be the fastest or the strongest, it just needs to keep coming, hour after hour, day after day, adapting to every evasion tactic, learning from every encounter, until its target can no longer continue. Graz'nik displayed footage of human military training exercises. This evolutionary trait permeates everything they do. When the Confederation deploys a new weapons system, most species would develop a specific countermeasure. Humans? They develop 12 different countermeasures, ranging from the elegantly scientific to the brutally primitive. Test them all simultaneously, and then combine the 3 that work best. The display shifted to show humans in various combat situations, often grinning or making hand gestures at each other. And perhaps most disturbing of all, they find humor in it. Humor. In the midst of situations that would traumatize most sentient beings, humans make jokes. They compete with each other. They engage in what they call trash talking during combat operations. Graz'nik pulled up a classified intelligence recording. It showed human soldiers pinned down by enemy fire, yet laughing as they placed bets on who could make the most improbable shot. Our psychologists believe this behavior serves as a stress management technique, but it has the secondary effect of terrifying their opponents. There's something profoundly unsettling about facing an adversary who finds genuine amusement in the chaos of battle. The Admiral shifted uncomfortably. Dr. Patel herself exemplified this trait. After creating a device that neutralized an entire Draxes invasion fleet by turning their hive communication system into what humans call an infinite feedback loop of baby shark, apparently some kind of psychological torture disguised as children's entertainment, she celebrated by hosting what humans call a dance party on the observation deck. Graz'nik displayed one final image, Dr. Patel casually sketching new weapon designs while recovering in a medical facility, having been injured in a laboratory accident. The physician reports noted she was simultaneously developing a more efficient propulsion system, arguing with colleagues about something called pizza toppings, and planning improvements to the very device that had injured her. When asked if she wanted a rest period, she reportedly said, "Sleep is for the weak and the dead, and I'm neither yet." The Admiral's voice dropped to a near whisper. This, cadets, is what makes humans truly dangerous. They are creative, adaptive persistence predators with a psychological makeup that turns adversity into advantage. Even their recreational activities, what they call sports and games, are essentially ritualized combat training focused on strategy, teamwork, and overcoming stronger opponents through clever tactics. Graz'nik leaned forward, his voice taking on the quality of someone sharing a particularly juicy piece of classified information. 8 cycles after the Perseus incident, humanity had established colonies in 17 star systems and formal diplomatic relations with 32 spacefaring civilizations. This rapid expansion alarmed not just the Confederation but several other galactic powers. The display showed a massive gathering of warships from various alien civilizations, assembled near a nebula glowing with vibrant purple and blue energies. The Kalidon Nebula became the staging area for what was supposed to be the definitive containment of human expansion. 3 major empires, the Drev hegemony, the Ultharian Dominion, and the Memorarshan Imperium, joined our Confederation forces in an unprecedented alliance. Over 1,200 capital ships. The largest fleet ever assembled in modern galactic history. Graz'nik displayed the image of a weathered human male with silver hair and a face that seemed permanently set in an expression of amused confidence. Admiral Rick Stern of the United Earth Navy, veteran of 6 major engagements, decorated for valor in each one, and possessor of what humans mysteriously call a world-class poker face. The Earth government dispatched him with a response fleet to address the Alliance's demands for humanity to cease expansion. The Admiral barked a short laugh. When I say response fleet, I mean exactly 3 vessels. 3. Against our 1,200. The flagship was the U.S. Audacity II, carrying Admiral Stern and a crew of just 157 humans. The holographic display showed the tiny human flotilla approaching the massive gathered fleet. The combined fleet commanders transmitted their ultimatum: humanity must withdraw to their home system or face immediate military consequences. Admiral Stern requested a face-to-face meeting aboard his vessel. Graz'nik shook his head in disbelief. During the meeting, Stern was remarkably cordial. He offered the assembled commanders a tour of his ship, including an empty cargo bay, and completely empty, when asked about the vacant space. He simply smiled and said it contained humanity's newest defensive measure that was classified at the highest levels. The Admiral's voice dropped dramatically. Then came the bluff that reshaped galactic politics forever. Stern casually mentioned that, should hostilities commence, this defensive measure would activate automatically. He said, and I quote from the official transcript, "It's quite remarkable technology. The effects propagate through dimensional space rather than normal space-time. Very clean." your ships will simply cease to exist. No debris, no radiation. They'll just be gone. We call it the Void Whisper. Graz'nik's facial tentacles twitched with remembered anxiety. When the Drev commander expressed skepticism, Stern shrugged and said, "That's fair. We had trouble believing it ourselves until the test. Would you like to select one of your vessels to verify the capability? We'd recommend choosing one with a smaller crew complement." Then he just waited, sipping his coffee and looking mildly interested in the response. The display showed the Alliance commanders in various states of agitation. Within 12 hours, all three empires had withdrawn their forces and signed non-aggression pacts with humanity. The Confederation soon followed, no shots fired. No actual demonstration of this supposed Void Whisper technology. Just a human with an empty cargo bay and an unblinking stare. Graz'nik's expression conveyed both admiration and horror. 3 cycles later, when peace was firmly established, Admiral Stern admitted in a commemorative speech that there never was any Void Whisper. The cargo bay was empty because they'd rushed to intercept our fleet before completing their resupply. Yet by then, humanity's reputation had become a weapon more powerful than any actual technology they possessed. Admiral Graz'nik straightened his posture, his 3 eyes focusing directly on the recording device, as if making eye contact with the future cadets who would view this briefing. And so we arrive at the present day. Humanity controls or influences nearly a quarter of known space. Their diplomatic corps is as formidable as their military, perhaps more so. They've become essential trading partners, cultural influencers, and peacekeepers throughout the galaxy. He gestured to a holographic map showing the current political boundaries. Take heed, cadets. The peace we now enjoy is built on a foundation of mutual respect that was earned through blood, terror, and eventually wisdom. The Confederation learned the hard way that humans are not to be underestimated or provoked. Yet neither should they be feared to the point of irrationality. Graz'nik's expression softened slightly. Humans represent the greatest paradox in the galaxy. They are simultaneously the most dangerous species we have encountered and the most creative. They can conceptualize destruction on a scale that would horrify most sentient beings, yet they use the same cognitive processes to create art, music, and literature that many of us now find deeply moving. The display shifted to show the Admiral standing beside a human female in a formal military uniform, both apparently enjoying some kind of social gathering. This is Admiral Maya Jameson, my counterpart in the United Earth Navy. After decades of studying humans as potential enemies, I now count her among my closest friends. We meet regularly to discuss security concerns, trade negotiations, and something she introduced me to called fantasy football, which has nothing to do with either fantasy or football, as far as I can determine. Graz'nik permitted himself a gesture that approximated a smile. Admiral Jameson tells me that humans have an old saying, "Keep your friends close and your enemies closer." The brilliance of humanity is that they've managed to collapse that distinction entirely. They've transformed former adversaries into allies so thoroughly that we now willingly seek their protection. The Admiral's tone became serious once more. Remember this lesson well, cadets. The humans have a concept they call respect. It's not the same as fear, though it contains elements of it. It's not the same as friendship, though it can lead there. It is the recognition that another being or species has qualities worthy of your consideration and caution. Graz'nik touched a control, preparing to end the recording. Humanity demanded our respect. Then they earned it. And in doing so, they changed the galaxy forever. As you progress through your training, you'll learn to work alongside humans rather than against them. Consider yourselves fortunate. Your predecessors didn't have that luxury. With a final gesture to the recording device, Admiral Graz'nik concluded. End briefing. And remember, cadets, if you ever hear a human say, "Hold my beer," run. Don't walk, run.